He wants to say I'm misleading the public. I want to know, is that misinformation? Am I spreading misinformation? Did our children actually get marked at the prom? Did their hands get marked on vaccination status? Is that misinformation, Mr. Henry? This is all relevant stuff, and when parents have the nerve to come up to you guys and present you guys information that things are happening to their children, instead of saying things like it's misinformation, maybe you should take that stuff a little bit more seriously, okay? You guys did swear an oath, okay, to uphold the Constitution. How many of you guys have read the Constitution, the New Hampshire State Constitution? If you're going to swear an oath to it, you have to at least please read it. I know that's been 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public input, we'll now close public input, and I'll take a motion on the agenda.
Make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Just due to some conflicts tonight with some of the other events going on at the school, I'd like to move the items for the principal, early graduation, which is under 8C, and actually the principal's report up in front of the Finance Committee. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the modified agenda?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll take a motion on the minutes.
I'll make a motion on the minutes. October 5th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion?
I do have a request for an addition. I don't have it in front of me, but on page 2, under the superintendent's report, there was a discussion there, and I'd like it reflected in the minutes that I had asked the superintendent about in relation to the elementary school breakouts, the decisions made at Prospect, and also I had stated some information about the substantial increases in the case rates in Belknap County, so I'd like that to be reflected in the minutes, please.
Sharon, did you get that?
Yes, I did, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you. All right, Jay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to begin with action item C for early graduation requests. In your packet, there were two. One of the young ladies have actually withdrawn her name. Liberty has withdrawn her name. I do have a second name that I'd like to provide and ask for your approval. Am I allowed to say the name? Okay, her name
Public.
is Kristen Rowell, R-O-W-E-L-L. Both students have submitted a letter, have met with their counselor, submitted a letter of interest in graduating early. Both will finish complete at the end of this school year, which is the end of their junior year. We have letters of support from both parents as well, supporting their interest and desire to graduate early, as well as their plan for once they leave. Superintendent did ask me to bring the letters. I left them on my desk. I can get them and bring them back.
No, I think it was just a concern about being public information out in our packets with
Gotcha.
names, with information about what they're gonna do, so.
Gotcha.
Did anybody have any questions on the early graduation?
Make a motion to accept request for Willis Sanborn and Ronald Kristen for early graduation.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This past Monday started the beginning of term 2, so we finished term 1, which grades grades are not officially due yet, so I don't have numbers in terms of honor roll or how many students failed the first term class. I'll have that for the next board meeting. The last Friday, October 29th, which was the last Friday in October, we hosted our first Good News Assembly of the year. This is something we were doing on a regular basis pre-COVID. We get the entire student body together, and we just recognize the good that's going on. And we held it outdoors so that we could be maskless and be on the bleachers together, and the weather cooperated. We got to see the marching band perform, do a couple of songs that they performed at the Dover Band Show. We recognized all of our sports teams. We recognized some of the athletes who did exceptionally well in the postseason. We recognized the robotics team and all of the other clubs, including the environmental club, who participated and who have been doing active things within the school community over the past 50 days or so since school has started. All of the co-curricular clubs are almost starting from scratch, trying to generate interest again, and starting to host things and attend things and recruit. So everybody's kind of in a similar position where they're trying to get it going, and some clubs are thriving and some clubs are just starting to evolve again. But I'm confident and optimistic that in time we'll have more kids participating in not just sports but in co-curriculars as well. Let's see, this past weekend, robotics hosted the Governor's Cup here, which was attended by dignitaries throughout the state and over 20 teams that participated. It was closed to the public. We had discussed this at the last meeting, so it was only participants only with a couple of exceptions. We also selected our Student of the Month for the month of October, and this process is that staff members can nominate students based on qualities similar to our core values, observations that they either recognize the kids are doing in the hallway or in class. At the end of the month, a couple of days before the meeting, the staff takes a vote, an anonymous vote, and they choose. And we had 10 kids who were nominated, and our winner was a young lady named Jasmine Emerson, who was selected because of her kindness and willingness to help people and her grit, determination to try to advance herself. So it was great to be able to recognize her in front of the school and celebrate the good news. We have a school-wide initiative going on based on the book Life is Good. Especially now knowing what it was like to have lost it all. So that's all I have. So unless anybody has any questions.
I just will say I came up to robotics this weekend, and that was pretty awesome. Senator Gray was here, and Department of Education, Etta Bloom was here as well at the event. But it was neat to see all the kids in the robots and stuff. So yeah, it was fantastic.
Anybody else have anything for Jen? Thank you, Jen.
Sure. The last thing I'll ask, and I know it's not an agenda item, and I don't know if it's going to come up for discussion, but winter sports are upon us, and we've been talking about what our COVID protocols are going to be for sports season. Last year we brought questions to you about what you would hope to see at our sporting events, and we're really primarily talking about basketball. And some of those questions are we going to allow fans from other places? Are we going to mandate masks for spectators coming in? Do we want to social distance any of the fans and spectators coming in, or do we want to remain optional and freedom of choice, but something that is worth dialoguing? Or I'm happy to take care of it working with the athletic director. And just for a frame of reference, there is no guidance from the NHIAA. They basically basically said every school can do their own thing.
Have other schools told you what they plan to do?
It's changing by the day. And it seems to be changing on a temporary basis as well. A school, used Rochester, for example, had high numbers and clusters that they identified, so they went masks today, and I think they're staying like that through Thanksgiving.
Okay.
But on the sports realm, there's not a lot of talk about what's going on at this point. Everybody's kind of going different than winter. Soccer is much different than basketball. The whole nature of basketball is to be up in each other's faces in a very small, tight area. So,
Well, we had established or suggested some guidelines for like the robotics tournament. That was a lot of people in here that weren't necessarily associated with the school. I mean, did that work?
it did work. Yeah, the mask factor, as controversial as it is, I think it does give some people a peace of mind. And in fairness, it probably angers people as well. But the difference being is that sports is optional. You don't have to come to a basketball game if you truly don't want to wear a mask or follow whatever rule we have, whether it's food in the gymnasium or whatever. So we have a little bit more flexibility there.
My opinion is we keep going like we've been going and we're up, so I don't think my person. Thought on the whole thing, and then we need to readdress it at the time and then
Yep.
do that, but we've been optional all along, so I can't see why we would change that.
The basketball season starts after Thanksgiving break, so you'll have a meeting in the beginning of December. We'll be able to see how things are going locally. We might know what other schools are doing at that point in time, and it might be a conversation that's worth
This
having.
last year we limited the fans, right?
Correct.
To just.
Just parents, two
Yeah.
parents for each player,
Right,
or two family members for each player. And we were able to social distance them
right.
appropriately.
And it is all over the map, because I just got done coaching basketball for camp here, we're wearing masks right now. Some of the schools are not allowing parents in at all to the gym to watch, some are masks, some are this, so it's, every school's different. So what we're doing is reaching out to each school so we know when we get there what we have to do.
Yeah.
Masks or non-masks, so, or fans. I can tell you, Barnstead, we just don't have the room, so we're not doing fans. Or videotaping it, live.
So again, I think it's just something to put on the radar, to be given thought about it, paying attention to what you're observing and hearing from other places. But we don't need to make a decision now, but I definitely wanted to put it on your radar now.
Okay.
Should we put it on the agenda for next?
Yeah.
If there's no one, if no one else has any questions for me, I'm gonna go dish ice cream and hot fudge, which you're more than welcome to swing by. Except you don't need it.
This is true. Used to like everyone.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, we can now get a report from the Finance Committee.
Well, the Finance Committee has met several times since our last meeting, but really what we have to bring to you is the budget tonight, so I think we'll just wait to the action items. We won't spend any more time now.
Okay. We're up to you.
Yeah, tonight's meeting is about the budget, so my report is brief. There's a handout on the table in front of you. It shows you county and town level COVID infection data. There are 3 active cases at the high school. There have been 19 since the first day of school. There is no change here that justifies any change in our face coverings optional mode of operation at the high school, so I am not recommending any change. My 2 cents on sports, since you asked, is when we first talked over the summer about this year, we differentiated high school from other levels simply because of the availability of vaccines. People who want to be vaccinated are. People who have chosen not to be have chosen not to be. As either Jay or Mr. Henry noted a moment ago, athletics are not part of the regular academic program of a school. People can choose to participate or not, attend or not. So my 2 cents is we have a mode of operation at the high school that's working, and certainly if that changes, you're gonna hear from me and I'm gonna make some decisions, but as of today, that hasn't changed. That's my report.
Any questions for the superintendent?
I was just wondering about the buses, if you had better cooperation from the bus company on the federal mandate.
We've either had improved compliance from the bus companies, or we haven't had complaints in the last, boy, it's been weeks since I've heard a thing from the high school level about the work of the bus companies.
All right. So we can move on to action items. We have in our packet, we had, and I'm getting lost here. I've got too many packets. We need to reaffirm our phone poll or email poll.
Yeah,
So, this was, it had to do with reassigning teachers under some emergency conditions. So I'll go around and ask for your vote. Eunice Landry was a yes. Eliza?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Brandy?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Yes. You skipped.
Lila? Sorry. Okay. Now we can go ahead and do the budget.
it's up to you. I've updated.
Well, everybody has an overview that Tim wrote up. Looks like this in your packet. And then you have comparison sheet, which basically shows each different object or area with a comparison to previous years. And then you have the full proposed budget. And as I said, the Finance Committee has been meeting on this multiple times with Tim and Heidi and Jay, and we've covered a lot of ground, so to speak. It's been a bit of a challenge this year if you look at where we started as far as the first draft, and actually where we're ending up tonight is a different number than what you have in your packet because we made some additional cuts at our meeting just before this meeting. So I can give you the fourth draft number to start, and then I'll have Tim kind of give you more of a explanation. So the final number that the Finance Committee is proposing to the board is $8,615,025.42, which is an increase over this year's budget of 1.7%. And the total dollar increase is $144,091. I know you all did not get a chance, really much of a chance to look at this. But maybe Tim, if you want to go through the basics, the big parts, then we can see if there are questions anybody has.
Yeah, the big areas of increase in the first draft of this budget were salaries and salary-related expenses. Every time you add a salary or increase a salary, there's associated retirement system, FICA, and potentially health insurance ramifications. So about a third of the original proposed increases were in salary lines. About another third of the proposed increases were in healthcare exclusively. We've been told by our healthcare provider to plan on a 6.5% increase this year, so that's what's here. We do get a real number from them before you have to take your final action on the budget, so if they come in under, you'll have a chance to cut that, but right now, this is at 6.5%. We also had some other increases in healthcare due to changes in employees' situations, and that's everything from somebody leaves or retires and a new employee came in who's taking health care where the previous employee wasn't, or who's taking a family plan as opposed to a single or two-person, or whatever the case may be. We had some increases in those areas. And then everything else was about the other third of the initial increases. Thank you to the Budget and Finance Committee for sharpening their pencils and doing a lot of work this year. They made the decision, and I know it was difficult, to remove 2 FTEs from the 1100s function, translation, teaching positions. You have resisted that. You, this joint board, not necessarily those of you who are sitting here tonight, but this joint board has resisted that for a long time. But in my printed overview that I gave you, I included once again the enrollment trend for Prospect Mountain High School, which in fiscal 14, the 2013-14 school year, enrolled 537 students, and this year has 416. This is not changing. You've all heard this from me since just about I walked through the door here and started talking about the future and enrollment at this school. The other thing I've included here, however, is a comparison of Prospect Mountain's per pupil cost over the last 10 years to the state average per pupil cost for a high school. So back in 2013-14, when there were 537 students at Prospect Mountain, the per pupil cost here was $13,055, and the state average was $14,109. So Prospect Mountain was below the state average cost of a high school on a per pupil basis. The problem is that a chunk of what we do in schools is overhead. Like running any business, it costs a certain amount to have administration, to keep the lights on, to maintain the building. And regardless of the number of students here, you have those costs. You've also, if you've been on the board for longer than maybe just this year, you've heard me talk about 500 being about the sweet spot, below which it gets really hard to offer everything you want to offer at a high school. It doesn't mean you can't run a good school, but you have to make very difficult choices, choices that this board has really not wanted to make in the past. So for now, the principal and I agreed with the budget committee that we will be able to cut. We'll come back to you in the spring with exactly where they're coming from. We want to wait and see kind of what happens over the next several months before we need to make this commitment. But we will cut 2 positions, and we will be fine. And we do not plan to come to you and ask you to eliminate a program. We believe we're going to do this without eliminating a program. Some of our average class sizes in some of our departments are very small, so we really don't expect this to have a deleterious effect on the program here. But it's a fiscally responsible thing to do, and it just needed to be done, ultimately. So that was the big decision that came first, and then as we walked into tonight's meeting, we were down to a total year-over-year increase of just under $250,000, which was just under a 3% increase from the current year to next year. And for anyone who wants to keep score at home, we'll email this out so you don't have to take notes if you prefer not to, but the budget committee this evening decided to cut an additional $7,700 out of the 1100s regular educational program. Those were some stipends that we think we don't need next year. An additional position out of the 1200s, that's our special education function. It's not a teaching position, but it's a position that's already vacant, so we can eliminate it and simply not fill it. That with the FICA and an HRS associated with it is about $45,000. There are two cuts related to co-curricular activities, one at $9,000, the other at $4,000. And you have a stabilization fund that allows you to pick up any overage in utilities. So as a result of that, the finance committee tonight made the decision to cut the increase and level fund the fuel oil line. So instead of what your report here says is a $15,120 increase in fuel oil, it's level funded. So that $15,120 is cut now. And if we happen to need more money, we'll come to you and you can withdraw money from that ETF, that extendable trust fund that's set up for that purpose. By the same token, I think just before I came to work here, you had done a bunch of LED lights and entered into a new electricity contract, which was supposed to yield some savings, and now we've seen a couple of years of actual expenses, even though last year was weird in schools, so we don't know what it means. But for 2 years in a row, you have come in under, so there is a $25,000 cut as of tonight in the electricity line. And again, if we happen to need a little bit more, you have that utilities ETF that you could dip into next year. All told, that's an additional $105,820 cut from the budget as it was when we sent it out today and printed it for your packets, which makes the new number, as Karen said, $8,615,025, which is a total net increase now of $144,090, which is 1.7% of the budget. You also have in your packet, and I'll be done, and just we can answer questions, a record for the last 10 years of what the year-over-year change in the budget has been. So from 13 to 14, it went up 2.58%, 14 to 15 went up 4%. This, with these cuts, continues our tradition 3 years in a row now of keeping the budget increase under 2%, which is remarkable. Our job now will be to not overspend this budget, but everything that this committee did, and again, thank you for sharpening your pencils and digging into it, everything made sense.
But just so you don't get too concerned, on electricity and oil, we did not really decrease our funding, we level funded it. So we looked at the actuals in electricity, and we're a little bit, we budgeted just a couple thousand more than that, and we just level funded the oil. So I need a motion to.
So I will move that the board approve an operating budget of $8,615,025.42 for the school years 22 to 23 to recommend to the Joint Maintenance Agreement Budget Committee.
Second.
Any discussion from the full board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you. All right, and we have personnel report. We're gonna need two non-public.
So I move that we approve the hiring of Ruth Ruby
Yep.
as the Director of Special Education.
Second.
Any discussion?
Does
I'll-
Tim have any details for us on?
Whatever you want. Yeah, I'm actually excited about this. We found someone who owns property in one of our towns who was interested in starting her and her husband's relocation. here, maybe a year or two earlier than they had been thinking, but this opportunity opened up, and we found a very well-qualified candidate at the same salary. So, no budget impact.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. All right, I'll now open up the second public input.
Just the numbers that I read off earlier.
Okay, thank you.
So it was several months back that again, this is Jason English, that I presented this board with this letter that's directed to the Department of Education from Attorney Christopher Bond. May a school require COVID-19 vaccination for attendance? No. A legislator has designated immunization against certain diseases a required condition for enrollment in a public school. That's the legislator, right? Down here, it says also that tethering specific privileges to vaccination statuses such as wearing a mask or granting access is a backdoor mechanism, okay? I asked Alton, I'm hoping to get it with two communities. What RSA, what law are you guys operating under for thinking you have power to mask people? Do we know what the law is? Article 1, all men are born equally free and independent. Therefore, all government of right originates from the people, is founded in consent, and institute for the general good. Consent is found through the legislator. That is the people. That is the voice of the people. The legislator's job is to create laws for us to follow. If you're not following laws and you're making up your own laws, you're violating your oath to the Constitution of New Hampshire. Okay, there's no laws on the books giving you guys the power to mask children. I'm going to go over this over and over again. We have to read this. This is something that this is a misdemeanor offense if you guys violate it. All right? You guys want to look at all the other schools that are failing in lawsuits right now. Who wants to be the school that doesn't fail? Who wants to be on the front page of a newspaper? Because if it starts happening in one town in New Hampshire, it's going to be a national thing. All this stuff we're sweeping under the rug, we're firing coaches who sat two children getting into a fist fight in practice as a form of correction, but we're hiring another coach that's giving students alcohol. Is this the type of morality we want to promote to our this is us, this is Alton, this is Barnstead? It's really easy. You just go on to the state website. It's the New Hampshire Constitution. I encourage you to read it. If you guys can please find the law that gives you the power to do this, come prepared. I've asked several times for research showing that masks actually work. All the closest thing is something that has been, that was controlled. Schools are not controlled. This is the least amount of COVID we've had in all the schools, and none of the kids are forced to wear masks. These little kids don't need to be wearing masks. I got a couple things that I also want to say. And the superintendent floated this out to Alton School Board yesterday regarding teachers that are affected by COVID, and if we're going to compensate them. I'm sure you guys are going to get the same pitch. And I want to just look at the other side of the coin. Are we going to compensate the parents that you guys send these children home for 10, 14, 20 days at a time? Are we going to take the responsibility, avenue in providing their child care? You want to pick up their paycheck because they got to miss work for 3 weeks? 2 weeks if you're vaccinated. I mean, we should be living under all the same rules, all the same people. I know, tap the clock, I get it. You don't want to hear it. You haven't
we have
wanted to
that
hear it.
meeting too,
And
Jason. It's not that we
unfortunately,
don't wanna
ma'am,
hear it.
everybody sitting here at this table is choosing not to wear a mask, and you're not giving our children that same choice. You are in this school, thank God, but you're not in the other two schools.
And again, this is Prospect Mountain High School.
And again, if I go to your school, ma'am, and try to talk to you, you're gonna tell me I don't have a right to talk to you because I'm not in that town. Okay, I'm in this town. I'm part of this school, whether people like it or not. Use it. I floated out the fact that kids are more apt to get killed in a car accident, yet our kids are not have seatbelts in school buses. And within 2 weeks after I made that claim, a Barnstead school bus went off the road, and another school bus went off the road a few days later where there were kids that got hurt. If we're talking about safety of children, what I'm talking about is very relevant. And I'm sorry if you guys are sick and tired of hearing it. I'm sorry you think I'm spreading misinformation, sir. But the fact of the matter is my 11-year-old comes home, he's upset because his brother doesn't have to wear a face mask. You guys 1 hour less of teaching in this school right now, right? For mitigation, my children come home at the same time on the same bus, but yet my high schooler comes here an hour later and receives an hour less education than my K through 8th grade. Does that make sense? Is that the new level of education that we want for our children? I'm sorry, but it's silly. They both come home at the same time. There's no mitigation there. This is ridiculous.
Now going to close public input.
I'd like to make a motion, we enter non-public session under RSA 91A:2(1)B and RSA 91-A:3C and RSA 91-A:3(1)K.
I'll second. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.